What's up, ladies and gentlemen? This is the Money Down Pod. That is Shawn White. I am Kayvon Izami. Follow Shawn on Twitter at DumpsterFireFan. Follow me at Kayvon_sports and follow the show, please, at Money Down Sports. Like, subscribe, let us know your thoughts. This is a very fun slash kind of angry, if you can put those two together. I just did somehow. A version of the show because we're here to talk about the college football playoff, and it could be fun for those that want and like the 14 playoff and want it to stay the 14 playoff, and it could be angry for those that are really pissed off now that we might not get a college football expansion until 2026, which is absurd in my opinion. But Shawn, I know you have some serious thoughts about this, so I'm going to give you the floor first, but just so everyone out there that doesn't know what's going on, the conference commissioners, all of them got together to vote on the expansion of the playoff. It's been happening the last couple weeks, months, and they never were able to get to a deal. The SEC clearly wanted to do it. The ACC, the Pac-12, and the Big Ten were the ones that are dragging their feet for numerous reasons. The Big 12 and the SEC, in terms of the Power 5 conferences, were all on board. Now, specifically, and then Shawn, I'm going to pass it to you. I just want to let them know what is being reported is why this is happening. It's different reasons. The ACC, they have big concerns about the whole big picture of where college sports is going, which I don't really understand what that means exactly. The Big Ten wants guaranteed automatic bids to conference winners, and the Pac-12 has some issues with the Rose Bowl. They don't want to lose the Rose Bowl. That is at least what I have seen from reports. Shawn, if you've seen more, please tell me and then give me your thoughts on this.
No, that's definitely the gist of what it is. And let's be honest, this is so stupid. And the other thing that's stupid about it is, in reality, why are we putting a hard cap on this and ending conversations now? That's a problem with college football as a whole, really. And it's actually a problem with the NBA and other sports as well that's not the NFL. The thing the NFL does so well is when they see a problem, they just go in and fix it. And if they can't come to an agreement quickly on it, they kind of table it for a minute, but they don't ever close the door on it, and then they come back and they fix it as quickly as possible. This stuff right here, man, why are we tabling it so quickly and then going, oh, like 2026 maybe, stuff like that? And then I don't understand these conference commissioners just having these small, tiny issues, really, and nitpicking this little process. When it's good for the sport as a whole, it's good for everyone in reality. I don't understand it one bit. But yeah, the main reasons that you talked about are the reasons that I'm hearing. And I think out of those, the Pac-12 and the ACC has the most explaining to do on that.
Yes.
I will give the Big Ten a little bit of credit. That's an interesting thing, wanting your conference champion to get an automatic bid in. And I can understand fighting for that. So, okay, on the Big Ten, that makes sense. I understand the holdup there. What's the ACC talking about? That's the most vague answer to a question of all time. I mean, this NIL and everything. I don't know where's college football going. What do you mean? What does that have to do with anything? That needs a lot more explaining. And the Pac-12, I feel like the Rose Bowl should be the easiest of all to fix. If you don't want to lose the Rose Bowl, guess what? Just guarantee that your Pac-12 team is in the Rose Bowl. Call it the Rose Bowl for your playoff game. It makes no sense to me. I don't know. Let's hear what your thoughts are. I'm pretty pissed off about it, to be honest. It's so stupid that this is even a thing right now.
Yeah, so first of all, I love your first point about why they're putting a cap on this. I don't understand that either. Like, I get the whole thing that there's a contract with the playoff, and they signed a contract through a certain number of years, and that contract was coming up, so they re-signed it. But why can't they just sign a contract and say, yes, this is it for now, but if it changes before then, like it would still be broadcasted on ESPN. Like, that will still happen. The cap, to me, it's a really good point by you. I don't understand why now we have to wait 3 more years just to bring this conversation back up. Also, what you said about the ACC to me is ridiculous. And to me, it's this. This is just Jim Phillips, the new commissioner, trying to make his mark as a new commissioner. He's new. He wants to show everyone, I've got power. I'm the commissioner. Supposedly, there's a lot of coaches right now in the ACC that are not for expanding, which makes absolutely zero sense to me, because if you look around the ACC, other than Clemson, none of those teams are making a college football playoff unless it's expanded to, at the very least, 8. And it might need to even go to 10 for another ACC team to make it. And I'm an ACC guy. I'm not trying to bag on the ACC. If I had to pick a conference, it's the ACC for me. So, but that's just the reality. They're not a good conference right now. And if you expanded that to 12, let me tell you what, that NC State program coming back next year, they could have a legitimate shot in getting in at 12. They are good. Wake Forest could have a legitimate shot. If UNC can put all their talent that they have together, they would have a legitimate shot of getting in that top 12 if they expanded it. So this whole nonsense by these coaches, and then Jim Phillips wanting to do right by the coaches, just, it makes no sense to me. It sounds like excuses, and I don't get that. In terms of the Pac-12, bro, this is the Pac-12 strictly saying, we don't think we can make a college football playoff even if we expand, and we want that Rose Bowl money. They get a ton of money from the Rose Bowl every year, and they don't get money from the Pac-12, from the playoff, because they're never in it. They're never in the college football playoff, unfortunately for them, so they don't get the money. But still, even then, if you look at it and say, what are the chances of you getting in if you expand it? Like, everyone's chances become greater, which means everybody has more chance to make money. That's what I just don't understand, man. It's all about making money for their conferences and for their teams. And the best way to make money for your conferences and for your teams is by making the college football playoff. And if you make it, you get money to every team in the conference. So don't you think you would want a greater chance of making it? And then finally, to the Big Ten, I agree with your point, and I honestly think it's a good thing to have. I think they should keep congratulating, or in some ways giving some type of award to the teams that win their conference, because I think that's important. So I like the Big Ten fighting for that. But to shut it down and all that just over that is a little much for me. And my final point on all of this, Shawn, is it just comes down to a much bigger picture to me, and that is this. College football has a big issue because there isn't one person looking over the whole state of college football. There isn't a commissioner. There's a commissioner of each conference. So obviously those commissioners, what are they looking to do? They are looking to do everything best for their schools and their programs and their conference. Of course, they want to do well for college football because that does well for them. But it's first, let me make sure my conference gets taken care of, and then let's make college football greater. And until we have one person or everybody putting into just the greater good of college football, this is going to be a disaster, man. Because think about it. Everybody is trying to do what's best for their conference, and there isn't one person that's trying to actually make all of college football better in a whole. And that's the issue here, man. That's the big issue.
Yeah, they need someone in a room that can sit down with everybody and be like, all right, you're going to give up some contentions here. You're going to give up some concessions here. We're going to get this done no matter what for the greater good of the sport, because they don't have that right now at all. Mm-hmm. The funny thing about all this is I think the SEC is actually giving up the most by going to a playoff. Yeah. Because right now they're basically half the teams every year. It's 2 SEC teams. They're not going to get 6 teams into this 12-team playoff. They're actually giving up the most ground by approving this. But, the SEC don't care because they go in there and they try to win every year. They're fine with that. I don't understand especially the ACC. The ACC is really the one that's really making me struggle on this. It's like you said, they're only getting one team in, and it's Clemson. And then possibly if Miami starts to get to a rise in the next 2-3 years, maybe they can make one. But in reality, these NC State, UNC, Wake Forest, they ain't got no shot of making this thing unless it expands. So I think it's strange that they're just so gung-ho on not expanding the thing and giving their teams no chance of making a playoff like that. And I saw the issue of, they don't think they should play the extra games, this and that. I mean, are we really doing that right now? They already play them to death how it is. They're just skipping a
Yeah,
bowl game whenever they go to these other bowls. Kenny Pickett didn't play his bowl game this year. It's like, come on, man. It makes no sense to me at all. The ACC, the Pac-12 point you made is so funny that you think they think they can't even get in at
I think
all.
that's honestly it. I think that they know the biggest money they get every single year is from the Rose Bowl, and I think they're worried that they're going to lose that.
That's an excellent point to be made. I think USC is going to make it, and probably in about 2 years if
I
you
agree.
expand to 12. I think they'd be right there. So I think it's kind of silly for them to push this whole Rose Bowl idea because they're going to get one in if they go to 12. I fully believe that. This year they were just atrocious, but once Lincoln Riley gets
Oh, he's
USC
going to get it
rolling
right.
a little bit, they'll have at least one in every year, and that's my point. If you get one in, the Rose Bowl, it automatically goes to your Pac-12 team. They move the Sugar Bowl and Cotton Bowl around all the time now when it's the playoff.
Yep.
They move these bowls around. You can move that around as well. It's just interesting that the Pac-12 would be so worried about next year specifically losing out on the Rose Bowl. That's just hilarious to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then you're right. The Big Ten shouldn't shut it down. But the Big Ten, that's where a commissioner should come in. A commissioner should be like, yeah, the Big Ten's making good points. We need to really approach this and do that and really get into here and do some more negotiating. I just don't understand the hard cap on it, but you did make a good point on that, and I don't even think you really realized that you were saying that. Pushing it back like this actually does give them an opportunity to try to outrun that ESPN contract and maybe possibly get more money from a different entity
Yeah.
if we push it back and push it back and push it back till 2026. So maybe they can parlay a 12-team playoff into a new TV deal with other networks and bid against. So that's one thing that you can look at as to maybe why they're all together on this. And that would make more sense for the ACC to do that because their network is actually the one that's more underfunded out of all the Big Ten, the other networks. The Pac-12 also has a problem with their network as
Yeah,
well.
theirs is bad.
So the ACC and Pac-12 having an underlying other thing that's more greed that they don't want to put out into the public would make a lot more sense as well. And that's the only underlying issue I could see that maybe would be a reason why they're trying to push this back is, hey, we can get more on a TV deal and we don't like how our networks are being treated by ESPN, so we can put that in bid. So that's one thing I think we should keep in mind because business deals have shady undertones as well. You see it in all sorts of negotiations. So that's one thing to look at as well.
No doubt. And well, if you just look at the NFL, the reason why the NFL has splits up their product through numerous TV outlets is because it gets everyone bidding and they get money from all of them. And eventually, even though ESPN pretty much owns college football because they pretty much play every single game almost except Big Ten games, it feels like. And then they're even getting the SEC 3 p.m. games going away from CBS. Like that's coming to ESPN now. So like all of this stuff is under ESPN. But if college football in general, and I think it's best for everyone. You get one game on Fox, you get one game on CBS, and then you put a couple games on ESPN for a playoff. Like that to me, that makes sense, and everyone wins. But the biggest issue here is it's too divided. Like I said, there's too many people with their hands in the cookie jar, but all they want to do is get the cookies for them and their programs. It's not split it up a little bit. And if we had one person that can just look over all of this stuff, it would help it out tremendously because right now everyone is saying, okay, is my conference good? Okay, now it's good. Okay, now let's talk about helping the bigger picture of college football and the fans out. And right now, clearly everyone's conference does not feel like they're good. The Pac-12 feels like they're not making enough money because they're not good enough to get to the playoff, unfortunately. I agree with you. That's going to change. But right now, the only thing that they have to hang on to is the Rose Bowl. The ACC, I have no idea what's up with that. They have had a team in the playoff every single year except last year, whether it was Florida State the first year, all the way to Clemson, all the way up until this past year. They have had a team every single year, and that's their only team in Clemson. So I don't get what the ACC is doing at all. The Big Ten and the SEC you made really good points about that because you're right. The SEC, they should be the ones saying, do I really need to do that for you guys? Because we don't need this. I mean, that was a great point by you. They are every year at the very least, going to get one team in. Most likely now it's looking like they might get 2 in. And who knows, maybe one year they're going to get 3 in. So, like, the SEC doesn't need this at all. And I think the Big Ten is the second conference to be able to say, I don't need this either. And now I want to bring up this point, Shawn, because I heard a lot of people say this, which really bugs me. Yeah, but Kayvon, Shawn, if they go to 12 teams, do you know how many of those games are just going to suck and be absolute blowouts? First of all, ladies and gentlemen, this is sports. Is there going to be blowouts? Of course. But are there going to be upsets too? Of course. It's sports. That is what sports is. If you think every single game is going to always be a blowout, you're wrong. Sports brings upsets. Second, let me just read you off the top 12 teams in this year's rankings and tell me how exciting these matchups would have sounded, okay? First of all, 1, Georgia. This is after. Here, let me go week 15 here. All right, number 1, Alabama versus number 12, BYU. Alabama would smoke them, so that probably wouldn't be a great one. Number 2, Michigan versus number 11, Utah. I think that would be a damn good game. Like, I think that could be a really good game. Number 3, Georgia versus number 10, Michigan State. I think Georgia would probably win that game pretty easily, but it would be intriguing. It could definitely be intriguing. Then you got Cincinnati at 4 versus 9, Oklahoma State. I could see Oklahoma State upsetting Cincinnati in that one, like, easily. Notre Dame 5 versus Ole Miss at 8. Imagine that game. Notre Dame and Ole Miss, bro. That would be phenomenal. Then you got Baylor versus Ohio State. Like, every single one of those games, except maybe Bama and BYU and Georgia and Michigan State, I think would be a really interesting game. So, like, this idea of it's just all going to be blowouts and stuff is ridiculous. A lot of these games would be great. We would have some underdogs and we'd have some blowouts too. And to be honest, most of these games in the semifinals have been blowouts anyways. They were both blowouts this year. It hasn't been good football, really. It really hasn't been. So that point to me is asinine.
Yeah, completely agree. So I'm going to rope that in with a bowl conversation because a lot of people bring up, oh, you're going to destroy bowl season. Well, number one, bowl season's a bunch of blowouts too. Like, except for the smaller schools going up to play bigger schools, which you will still have because it's not like they're just taking a bunch of teams away. It's 12 teams. You would still have a lot of those matchups. But a lot of those games are bad to watch as well. It's a gambling fiends fest. It's fun to have the games on all throughout the week. That's what bowl season is good for. And everybody's like, what about all the sponsorships for the bowl seasons? Well, I'm no business major, but Business 101 would be like, okay, well, we have our big 5 bowls that'll be like the national championship and all this. Who wants to pay the most money to be these college football playoff game sponsors? Duke's Mayo, do you want to be one of the biggest sponsors right here? Have your Mayo Bowl be one of these top 12 matchups? Do you want to do that? That's how you make more money that way. And I'm pretty sure they have to be thinking that as well, because if I can come up with that, then they can come up with that. But that's one thing to think about there. The other thing is, you were talking about that. That's like 2 blowout games on paper right there immediately. If you do one format where you give the top 4 a bye, imagine playing that way.
Yep.
Those games are tight then.
Oh, yeah.
That's tight games. Top 4 bye, play the first ones on campus. Imagine that, the campus ranking. You can do stuff like that. It makes no sense why these options aren't on the table and being pushed forward. And it's like you've been saying the whole time. It's like I've said, it's like several people say, until you get some centralized leadership in here, until it's not a bunch of committees making committee votes for everything, until you get one central person that's unbiased for all these conferences, you're going to have issues like this. And it's just sad to see on a sport that is number one. It is the second largest sport in the country behind the NFL. Football is number 1 in general, and it's number 2 in that ranking. We do a draft show that like combines between the NFL and college football. The draft is watched more than most NBA games. I mean, playoff final games. The draft is watched in the first round.
Yeah.
Football's major here. And to not have a centralized voice on what's the second biggest sport, to not have a centralized voice on these NIL deals and all this that people are talking about that go off the rails, it's pretty stupid, to be honest. It's one of the dumbest run billion-dollar businesses out there because it has no one running it. It's very sad to watch. They really need to table this and bring it back. And I'm hoping enough voices will get in their head to be like, all right, we're going to do this earlier, and it's always possible because they might put that date out there as 2026, but they can always realign if they want to do all this stuff. They already talk about Texas and Oklahoma going to the SEC and pushing that back and forth. They can make this happen. They just need to be pushed hard enough to want to make it happen, and I'm hoping that happens in the near future.
No doubt. And I this is, and I'm not saying our show's big enough to make this call, but I'm going to make it. I want to hear more on why the hell the ACC doesn't want this. Like, okay, the Pac-12 told us. You guys, everyone's smart enough to read between the lines. What they're saying by the what they want there is the Rose Bowl is they want their damn money from the Rose Bowl. They need their money from the Rose Bowl, and they really do need it. They're not lying. What is the ACC doing, like you said? We need a better explanation. Why is that? What's going on, Jim Phillips? Are you just trying to use your, make your one big move here now that you're new commissioner? Like, I need to know what's up with that. But everything else you said is spot on. And it's unfair to college football fans because this is how it's always gone. First of all, they took way too damn long to change from the BCS to the college football playoff in the first place. They took way too long. That BCS national title game should have been knocked out years on years ago. And they kept to it because there's no one there to push the method and to bring everyone together. And now we're here again at a crossroads, and there's no one to bring all of us together and make this happen. And it turns out to be a very sad day for college football fans because everybody wants more football and more games. And one thing about your point on the bowl games, which is so true, just to add on to that, all these players that are sitting out of these bowl games that are blowouts, that's not happening if it's for a championship. That's not happening if they win. If you win this game, you move on to the semifinals, you move on to the finals. You think players are going to sit out of bowl games for that? Get the heck out of there. These are competitors. They're going to play if there is hardware on the line and they get to play teams that they've never played before, a BYU playing a Bama. Maybe it's a terrible game, but how sick is that for the BYU kids on a meaningful game? Georgia playing Oklahoma State. When does that ever happen? Like, these are awesome games for the fan bases to collide when they never get to collide, and players would play in those games. And again, it's just a sad day for college football fans that these guys couldn't get in a room together and come up with an actual deal to make, for once, something that makes football together as a whole better.
Yep, completely agree on that. It's so sad to watch, and it's beyond belief for me. Honestly, I'm still a little bit in disbelief over it.
Yeah, no doubt about it. This is the Money Down Pod. That's Shawn White. I am Kayvon and Shawn. Follow us on Twitter at Money Down Pod. We have a new draft show coming out on Monday. It is our first mock draft. The first Money Down Pod mock draft is coming out on Monday, and I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, we already recorded it. It was really good. We put a couple players and teams that you wouldn't think would have gone. Wait till you see how far a quarterback drops. Wait till you see how far a big-time cornerback drops. Like, I'm giving you hints here. It was a fun draft. Go and check it out to see what your team does and where they pick. And let us know what you think of those picks, all right? And let us know what you think about this show in terms of the playoff. Are you on board? Are you with what we're saying? Are you pissed off right now? Or do you want to see it stay at 4 teams? And if so, I want to know why. Anything else to add before we get out of here?
No, I think that's good. We're all good to go. That was a good show. Like Kayvon was saying, we did our mock draft. It was going to go up here on Sunday, but then this came out and we felt like we needed to put it out there as it was happening. So we're going to do this one first, put out the mock on Monday. Like I said, you're a fan of an NFL team, you don't like the pick, you have other team needs, let us know because we're deep diving it. But, I mean, we're at the beginning process of it. So if you know your team a lot better than we do, let us know what you think. Let us know where we went wrong. If you're just a college football fan watching this and you have a favorite player or something in the draft, you want to know where he's going to go, let us know about how great of a prospect he is, where you think he would fit, things like that, what you're going to be watching on draft night for him. We love stuff like that. We're going to keep the content rolling through the off season. So, yeah, tune in for the mock draft and tell us what you think of this video.
Yeah. Please do. We really, really appreciate it. All of this will be leading up to the big time NFL draft in April. And for all you NBA fans, we will be starting our NBA talk as well as some college basketball talk next week after we get back from All-Star break. So stay tuned for that. This is the Money Down Pod. That is Shawn White. I am Kayvon and Shawn. Follow us on Twitter and let us know what you think of the show once again, please. Thank you and have a good day.